is Real Life with Susan Harf. Hi everyone, I'm Rose Martin. Thanks for joining us for tips and strategies from our favorite life coach on what we can do to navigate the tricky parts of life. And like you, I can't wait to hear what's on her mind today. Hi Susan.
Hi Rose, I'm happy to see you, and I'm very happy to have you with us also. You know who I'm thinking about today, Rose? I'm thinking about Antoinette. And you don't know Antoinette, but I'm going to tell you something about her. She lived to be 103.
Oh, great.
And she was remarkable because every time I saw Antoinette, she was happy and she was excited to be with me and excited to be on the planet. And so grateful that she was able to celebrate the holidays, celebrate every day actually. That's how she lived her life. The reason I'm thinking about Antoinette today is because I want to speak about loss. I want to talk about having the holidays here and what happens when you are someone who is experiencing loss. The other day, I had a situation. What happened was, you know I'm a swimmer, you know I swim mostly every day. And when I was coming back from the pool, I fell. And I got my whereabouts and I picked myself up and it was very slippery. That's how I fell. Wasn't wearing my flip-flops. I won't do that again. And immediately after I fell, my mind went to, I need to tell my husband what happened. And later that day when I saw him, I told him all about how I fell and it hurt. And I was so shocked when that happened, slipping, and it's just kind of disorienting. You can't believe this is happening. And he said the appropriate things. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. How are you feel? Let me see the bruise. What can we do? And afterwards, when I was feeling so grateful that I had him to talk about this with, I thought about Antoinette. And the reason I thought about her is because Antoinette's husband, Uncle Sam, died decades before she did. And she had to spend those decades alone after being married, which is a different situation than if you've never been married or you've chosen to end a marriage. So in her case, she had a wonderful, loving marriage, and it ended because Uncle Sam died. And what I thought about was, like Antoinette, other people who are alone, who don't have a significant other, especially now, being alone, to not have someone on the planet for whom you are their main person. You are the one that they care about the most. To not have that in your life changes your life drastically. It changes you and your life in a way that you weren't necessarily prepared for. And what's missing is that person who is the one that you turn to, the one that you tell the real deal to, the one that sometimes you've put on a really good face out there, but you're not so great today. You don't feel great. In my case, I fell. I hurt myself. In someone else's case, they had a bad day, bad interaction, a bad day at work, had a problem with a coworker, had a miscommunication with a friend or a family member, and when those things happen and you're able to come home, if, for instance, at Thanksgiving, you were at the table, maybe you had a problem there, and you want to say when you get home to your significant other, do you believe he said that? Do you believe Uncle so-and-so went off on that political tirade of his? When Antoinette came home from these experiences, she didn't have anybody to turn to and say, did I say the right thing when I was talking to the adult children about what my opinion is about their parenting today?
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, when you have someone that is your important person, it makes things okay. It makes you move faster through life's turmoil. And so I'm thinking about people who are alone now at the holidays who don't have that person to turn to. And I'm thinking those of us who do, those of us who have family around, friends around, please be aware that there are people in all of our lives who don't have that. And now, especially, we need to really think about how we can help them. So when you're thinking about Christmas or the Hanukkah table and who you're going to have, in addition to the usual suspects, in addition to the family that's always there, think about your neighbor across the street who may not be having a holiday meal. Because people, that's the other thing, people don't tend to do it when they're by themselves. I know last year at Thanksgiving, we were just the two of us in our condo at the time in New York, and we did not make a big Thanksgiving dinner. We were not going anywhere. It was the pandemic. We weren't going out of our house practically, let alone to another state. So we didn't make turkey. We just kind of had a dinner. It was like any other dinner.
See, I had to do it. Just the opposite. I made Bob sit there as I made the turkey, and I made a pie, and I did through the whole thing. He said, "Well, it's only us."
I'm
and
so
I'm like,
proud of you.
I said, "You know what? That's okay. I need to do this."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. You felt that need, and you accomplished that, and you did it, and it made you feel.
He thought
better.
I was crazy, though.
Well, but you weren't.
Right.
You weren't. Everybody does what they need to do, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that's an example of how two people can handle things completely differently, and they're both okay. But the thing is that we don't often think about when we have our significant other or we have our family around us or our good friends or both. We don't necessarily think about who's alone, or we make the assumption somebody invited them, and so. I'm thinking about this on two levels. I'm thinking about loss as from the perspective of we don't have that one person to tell the real truth to. We don't have that person to come home and say, "Want to hear what happened to me today?" And often we're not as quick and we're reluctant to speak about those things that are that put us in the complainer mode. I do that with my kids all the time. I say to them, "Want to hear what happened today that wasn't so great?" To have people in your life that you feel you can do that with is such a blessing. And I think for those of us also who are, I want to use the word older, who have lived life and had experience.
Oh, I like that. That's better.
We've lived life and had
like that.
experience. Yeah. What the experience has taught us is that we're so grateful right now to have the people in our lives that we can be real with. And for those people who don't have that, especially now, we need to be cognizant of how can we help them and how can we be there for them. And even if it means not only inviting them, but saying, "How are you today?"
That was my question. So outside of the table, how can we reach out and give support if it's a neighbor or maybe it is a parent in another state to where, your mom is there, but you've lost your dad and she's by herself.
Exactly.
So how do we do that?
I think you have to make it a point to include those people in your lives on an ongoing basis. If people, for instance, in your family are in a nursing home and you think it's okay to go visit them every couple of weeks, it's not okay. That is not making them a part of your life. And think about how you would feel if you were there. We are very, very fortunate to have our father-in-law, who's turning 93 next week, who is extremely active. And what he's doing today is he's leading a discussion on current events where he lives.
Wow.
And he does this every week, which is amazing. And to get ready for that discussion every week, he looks at news and every kind of print news and the internet and the television and prepares for the topics that the group is going to discuss.
Does he practice with you guys?
And then, pardon me?
Does he practice with you ahead of time, or he just does it
Oh,
himself?
no. He just picks the topics, comes to the group, gives them a list, and says, "These are the choices. What do you want to discuss today?"
Okay.
And he's in an independent living situation. But I brought him up because, besides the fact that he's our role model, because we speak to him every night at 8 o'clock. That is our time together. And what's interesting is he calls us. So he takes initiative also. But if the person doesn't call you, you call them. because that is truly making the person a part of your life. And especially when you really care about someone and you care about what happens to them, talking about the day-to-day things is not the same thing as catching up. When you don't see somebody for a month or you don't talk to them for a couple of weeks, then it's catch up. So how are things in general? And then you mention the things that sort of, the big things that happened. We went on a trip. We got together with so-and-so for the first time. Things that are sort of like markers. But today I tried to make cookies and they just didn't turn out. Or today I went to the pool and unfortunately I fell. Or, something that happened that's in your world now that you want to tell someone. Mm-hmm. And if you are living alone, you don't have that capability. So we need to use the phone. We need to text, we need to email, we need to use the internet for those purposes to be in touch with people. But I believe face-to-face, either FaceTime or Skype is just really the way to go because it allows you to really be there. And if some people, I'm one of these people who, you can FaceTime me at 6 in.the morning and I'm, I might be in my nightgown and I look probably terrible. I don't care. If you want to talk to me and you want to see me, I'm ready to be seen. I don't have that issue, and I encourage people to not have that issue about how you look when you get on the FaceTime. But some people do. I do not. But if that's a problem for you, then pick up the phone and don't do FaceTime. But the fact is, when you have that day-to-day contact, I really think it makes a difference in people's lives. We know that research suggests that people who are married when they're older, it affects their health in a positive way, that it keeps people healthy longer to have ongoing relationships. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is amazing.
It helps people physically. It in many cases not just enhances their life, but their lifespan.
Well, and isn't there something with touch? Just
Yeah.
you lose the fact of human touch if that loss of a spouse or a partner is there, and just that simple thing of a hug, or holding a hand makes such a difference.
Absolutely, and those are the things that we need to be thinking about right now. So, on one hand, I'm brought back to Antoinette because she was so vibrant till the very last day, so vibrant, so grateful. That is how she lived her life. Grateful for the people in it. And at the same time, I know that there were probably many private moments where she wanted to turn to somebody and say, did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Or why did I say that? And be able to have somebody say back, it's okay, it wasn't that bad, you did fine. Those are the kinds of things that when you are keeping in touch on a day-to-day basis with people, it provides for them. It allows them to be real with you and to have people in their lives. Maybe they don't have the significant other anymore, but if they have you and act like you really care and ask those questions, like we just said, how are you doing today? Really, how are you right now? Those are the things that I think make people feel like they matter. And especially if they do to you. Mm-hmm. So often people say, well, of course I'm close to my parent. We just don't live in the same city and it's hard to get together. Well, now is the time when we need to be thinking, and especially, going through this pandemic, we've thought about this now for a year and a half. How are we going to maintain being in touch? And how are we going to maintain that closeness even when we can't be in the same room?
And I think I love this because sometimes some people might not let you know they need you, or let you know they need help.
Absolutely.
Or some others might say, I haven't heard from you in X amount of days, and then you're like, oh, okay, I got to get better. But it's the ones that will just sit there and wait.
That's
just
right.
hope that someone will call them.
There are a lot of people who absolutely do that. And conversely, let's say when the adult children, a lot of my clients who are older will say to me, I just want them to call. And I say to them, you know what? They do have busier lives than you do. And so you need to call them. If you have a moment where you're not doing anything or you feel like you want to talk to them, pick up the phone and call them. If they say I can't talk to you, fine. If they say I'm busy, I'm in my work day, whatever they're doing, that's fine if they can't speak to you. But you're letting them know that let's make another time when we can. Or I have some clients and I have some friends who have a regular time that they speak, like with us.
Yeah.
We speak to my father-in-law every night at 8 o'clock. We look forward to it. I'm sure he does too. Sometimes what we do is we have dinner together on the phone.
On the phone.
Yeah. We don't do that as often as we should. That's something that we can improve on. That, because the other thing too is having meals alone. That's why I suggest that those are the times when we be thinking about the people in our lives who are alone, especially now. We've lived through this pandemic. Thank God we're still alive. Those of us who are, we're still alive, and some people didn't make it, and some people still are in trouble. And if you're fortunate enough to have people around you in your life, express that gratitude toward people who don't, and give them the opportunity to be with you.
I like that. That's really great. And I'm thinking that your family members are one, but I love what you said earlier about your neighbors. Like when you're on a walk, knock on their door.
Absolutely.
Right? And just say hello. Oh,
Absolutely.
Susan, I love this. Special thanks to our favorite life coach, right? Susan Harf, for giving us tips and ideas for the things that we can do to let the people in our lives know how important they are, but just by reaching out and being kind. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Rose Martin. If you would like to get in touch with Susan, remember, her address is reallife@blueridgepbs.org. She'd love to hear from you, answer your questions, and who knows, maybe your topic will be on one of her segments. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time.